Hello again, it's Garson, and this is going to be a quick guide for the Wildheart Barbarian Subclass. There's no multi-classing, we're just going to show you a quick demo of what it could do, and then we'll dive right into how to build this thing. Yeah, come get me. So of course, the start of the fight, Enrage is going to give us a good amount of resistances, and depending on our aspect, we get even more resistances, but we also want to attack. Even if we have 50% accuracy, we can also have a reaction to give us advantage. This does give everybody advantage against us, but that's okay. We can take hits with our resistances. In fact, if he can hit me... he only did one whole damage thanks to that resistance and the force conduit of my weapon. So if we build him up right, we can still take hits, no problem. We can also abuse terrain, so I'm going to throw down some grease. This doesn't slow me down. Spike growth doesn't hurt me, so I can run around this. They have to come chasing me. I don't get slowed down by terrain, no big deal, so I have a lot of movement. What I'm going to actually do is use one of my attacks to set up an opportunity, because the tiger aspect actually gives me the ability to cleave them. So I'm going to put them in a position I want, even if they jump around. And the cleave has a pretty crazy radius. I think it's like 180. So, alright, so let me go ahead and cleave them. Why would I do that? Because I can hit 2 targets with Great Weapon Master. I can get Force Conduit from the Skin Burster. Now I take less damage, I deal a lot of damage, and they're also maimed. They're bleeding, they're taking damage, they're Baneful Strike, all this sorts of stuff. So I'm leaving a lot of debuffs on them. Like I said, I can run away from them. They can't chase after me now, not just because of the grease, but also they're maimed, so they have to sit there, right? So now I'll go back in. I've already got them bleeding. I'm going to do a lot of extra damage with Great Weapon Master. There we go, finish them off. Since I killed somebody, I can use my bonus action, get another attack, and there you go. Tiger Barbarian, simple, deadly, effective. Let's get right into it. This is a quick guide for the subclass. So where's my notes? Bust them out. Ba-boom. So, thanks again for you guys requesting these videos and these quick guides, but it is a quick guide, so let's dive right in. It's the Wildheart Barbarian, and I've cut it down into sections. I'll skip around, I'll even make some timestamps. A quick guide on the channel though, we're not multi-classing. This is actually a simple build. It's not optimized or the best. We're just gonna get right into it and get to the point. If you've never played this subclass, this should be really fun and simple. So what is it? Well, barbarians are frontline fighters, and the subclass gives you the traits of a beast. You get to choose what that beast is among a selection, but mechanically what this does is literally gives you choices. I chose the Tiger Barbarian because it gives me the tiger's bloodlust cleave, but there's other options, and I really implore you to go take a look at it. This is probably one of the most customizable subclasses for barbarians, but either way, the choices are going to determine a passive effect, especially when you enrage. It'll give you some kind of bonus, right? But it also gives you a new move typically that you can use only when you're enraged. Then there's going to also be a lot of options you can customize based on the aspect you chose. I took aspect of the Wolverine in this setup, wherever it is, and I actually get 2 aspects if I go all the way to level 10. So Tiger aspect and Wolverine give me some new passives while fighting, and at later levels, I believe level 8, you get the difficult terrain. You can just flat out ignore most terrains. You don't even take damage from, say, spike growth, and you don't you're very less likely to get hit by entanglement on some other difficult terrains, right? So we're choosing Tiger though for this setup. I want you to know that there's a lot of good options, but I'm going to show you something I've run a lot of times with the cleave attack that you get when you're enraged with the Tiger's Bloodlust. It gives you 100% bleed if you can hit them with the cleave. You can hit multiple things because it is a cleave attack, and the main control from the Wolverine aspect is really strong. So let's dive right into it. This is how I built it. Basically, if you're going to go this way, the way I'm doing it, you could go a dexterity character with dexterity weapons, but I went with strength for accuracy on my melee weapons, bonus damage as well. I can jump a lot. I could push and throw people. I could kick them around with my shove. But yeah, I can also carry a lot of stuff right here. So I find this very valuable. Dexterity, if you went dexterity weapons like finesse weapons, Falar Alluve comes to mind, you could actually use dex as your main melee weapon as well, plus the benefit of using ranged weapons, but mainly we're using it for armor class, initiative, and spell dodging, like lightning on the saving throws there. But also the initiative is really great on barbarians. Later on at level 7 they do get a bonus to this, plus the dex initiative. Really good stuff. And if you're not wearing armor like I am, using cloth gear, you do get the bonus to armor class. And then finally, there's Constitution. This is important because, well, you don't want to die, right? Staying alive. HP bonuses plus the armor class from being unarmored as a level 1 barbarian is a nice bonus here. So what I've done is I started with 16 strength, and I got my way up to 20 strength using feats, and I have 16 dexterity for, like I said, the bonus armor class and initiative, and then I have 16 constitution. How did I pull that off? Because one of the pieces of armor starts me with 14. I go up to 16 with the bonus from the Enraging Heart garb. So what feats I recommend just to keep things simple and straightforward? We know strength is so important, so I would recommend taking 2 strength right off the bat at level 4, but you could actually take Great Weapon Master at level 4 if you're pretty good with getting those reckless attacks in with advantage, and your team gives you a lot of accuracy bonuses, or if you already understand how attack rolls work. Okay, otherwise I would start with strength. You get so much out of it. Then at level 8 take Great Weapon Master, then max out your strength. But really the last feat could be a flex pick. I'm going to keep it simple with this because our equipment is going to do a lot for us. You don't have to use this equipment, but just see what I'm getting out of this, and we'll go over it little by little. Haste Helmet gives me a lot of movement at the start of my turn. That's awesome because I'm mostly trying to run in and cleave everything. Then I have the Thunderskin Cloak. I'm going to cause reverb, so if anyone retaliates against me, which I'm probably going to take the hits, I have lower armor class, but I can take the hits because of my resistances. Well, this is going to punish them and possibly cause them to get dazed when I get reverb from the boots we'll talk about. The chest, like I said, gives me 2 more Constitution, which is more HP, but it also gives me 1 more armor class, which is pretty nice because I like the barbarian without any armor on. I like that. Gloves of Baneful. Baneful gloves, we're already trying to inflict wounds with the bleed cleave, so now every time I cleave someone, there's a chance to also cause the baneful striking, which would make them more vulnerable to saving throws like poison or constitution saving throws or wisdom saving throws. Any saving throw, this could definitely benefit. So if we hit multiple targets with the gloves, it's going to be bad news for them. And on top of that, since we're inflicting bleed every time we hit cleave, the Tiger's Bloodlust Cleave, we're actually going to get reverb because anytime we inflict a condition, we'll get reverb, which helps with physical saving throws like strength, dex, or con. If you want to blast someone with lightning, it's a saving throw for dexterity. Reverb's pretty good for that, and it can also potentially stack up, and reverb could potentially knock people over. So we could knock people prone just by hitting them with the bleed cleave. Isn't that great? Okay, so we have the amulet. This is really great. If we're going to take a lot of hits, this is an easy amulet you can get that's going to give you the full value of any heal. Instead of worrying about the dice from healing potions, we just get the max value from it. Ring 1 is a crusher ring because I really value movement rather. And so we're all the way up to 55 movement, thanks in part to the ring. And we'll get a little more armor class and saving throw from the protection ring. But like I said, this is very customizable. You can see what I'm going for with the equipment. You don't have to do it this way. The point is, with the Baneful gloves and the boots, I'm going to probably be applying a lot of things with Tiger's Bloodlust. So melee, I went with the Skin Burster. What I've found is really fun. I've used this with a Tiger Bloodlust. Since I'm going to hit about 2 or 3 targets on average with the cleave, I'm going to get almost max stacks of the Force Conduit, and Force Conduit can lead up to a lot of damage mitigated, and since I am getting resistances from that damage, this is going to really help out and combo well. I've used it in honor mode. It really works. This is kind of crazy. I don't mind taking hits thanks to this weapon, and it does have the longer reach for being a halberd. So ranged, really we're not using ranged attacks. You could throw weapons, you could probably use your bow, you have decent dex, but I'm just using it for the bonus initiative that comes from the awareness bow and the Hellrider bow. And as for elixirs, I didn't really use any on that example, but you can use heroism if you're struggling with a little bit of accuracy, even with the reckless attack advantage. Otherwise, you can get a little more damage on that cleave with a 1d4 and you'll become gigantic looking, which is pretty funny with the Colossus. So how do you actually play this? Well, let me throw some clips. I think it's not going to be too much different from the actual example I gave you. So let me pull this up. So right off the bat, I highly recommend Enraging So at the start, you should enrage at the beginning of a battle. You can always get your rest, your recharge to your rages back when you long rest. And since resistance is so key to going into melee range and fighting, most of the attacks you take in the game are the weapon attacks like bludgeoning and slashing. So you really want those resistances. Let people come in. And obviously, I showed you with reckless attack, you want to use it as a reaction. You don't have to manually click this. You don't have to use it if you're going to land your hits, but it does give you advantage, drastically raising up your accuracy. So even in the early game, but just keep in mind, reckless attack is going to mean advantage against you as well. So obviously you're going to take that tiger subclass in the beginning of the game. You want to find those opportunities to cleave. So I'll put up another clip here with that in mind, just to remind you what I did earlier is I created opportunities to cleave, right? So cleaving does half of your base damage, but it actually does full damage when you apply a bonus like Great Weapon Master, which is what I use. But the big thing here is I want you to find ways, find opponents who are together or make opponents come together, bring people together with your cleave so you can do tons of damage and cause the bleeds. The bleed debuff is really great. It supports anybody on your team who's using a con saving throw effect. I want you to think of maybe poison or moonbeam spell. These things love a guy on your team like the tiger bloodlust, so they can cause a bleed and really get those poison effects and moonbeam spells at their full damage. So cleave can be okay for a single target, but just try to find opportunities. At level 5, what I've tried to show here is you can throw or shove a target with one attack, and then you can cleave both of them now that they're together, right? So in Act 2, things change not too much. Basically, we can go all in. We have Great Weapon Master at level 8, or if you took it earlier, but there's more equipment. And so when we go all in with our attacks, not only are we going to do a lot of damage with maybe Great Weapon Masters, what I chose, but with the Wolverine aspect you also get to choose, you can now maim targets, which gives you a lot of control. So you can just choose to go all in with your damage. You're going to get bonus damage. You're going to bleed them, maim them, add reverb. Your team's going to love you because you're debuffing targets, but you're also keeping them away from your squishier allies, maybe in the background, or guys who just don't want to take hit because they're concentrating on something. And of course, you can ignore terrain by level 8. So if I pull up this other clip I showed, as you can see, we can use some grease, throw it on the ground. And with this terrain combo, you could throw stuff yourself like grease bottles, but what I'm really getting at here is more like Spike Growth or Hunger of Hadar or something like that. You can run in, do attacks, cleave them, maim them, keep them stuck in that terrain, and if they get done being bleed or maim or whatnot, they're going to have a hard time getting out of the terrain. So it really combos great with stuff you can throw like grease, or on a team you could use something like Spike Growth, which actually doesn't hurt you due to your passive ability. So Act 3 is just really more of the same, just abusing the terrain, setting up opportunities like this, and just getting those cleaves in, causing all these status conditions, and doing actually big damage. And when you're ready, you can actually hit them really hard with a single target, Great Weapon Master attack. So multi-classing, let's just briefly go over this. I've kind of condensed this section down just as my recommendations. What's so strong about a level 3 or 4 multi-class is you already have the components of what this character can do, this subclass can do. You have 3 rages per day. You have a really strong complement or base to whatever kind of build you're trying to make. You already have a possible feat if you go to level 4, and you have a passive choice based on what animal you chose, and they're a special attack when you enrage. So that's actually a really good multi-class. But level 5 is also a great multi-class because we do get that extra attack. So again, you could pick somebody up, throw them, and cleave them, and your character has all the stuff we talked about before. Level 7 and 8 is also one of my favorites because I get great initiative at level 7, and I cannot be surprised, which really comes handy in honor mode. And I have 2 feats. If I go to level 8, I'll have 2 feats, and I'll have the ignore terrain ability, which I think is really a highlight for this subclass. And finally, at level 10, you can get stronger critical hits at level 9 Barbarian, it's just part of the class, but you also pick up another base passive or beast passive, so you'd have 2 passive aspects at this point. So after that, you would only have 2 more levels, but you could do a lot with multi-classing at 2 levels. And I do want to talk about some of the stuff I've found with barbarians or the subclass. When you enrage, you lose it if you don't attack, even if it's a miss. If you would make an attempt to attack, you won't lose the rage. or if you took damage. But if you didn't take damage, if you didn't go for an attack, you'll lose that valuable rage charge. And that's 10 turns lost of a really valuable skill. You basically lose most of your benefits if you try to rage with heavy armor, but you can rage with heavy armor. This is really important. We'll talk about it with the bear in a second. But medium armor versus unarmored, hey, you do you. You're capable of using medium armor, not this cloth gear, as a barbarian right out the gate at level 1. Both can enrage when you're unarmored or medium armor. Both can get additional movement, and basically higher constitution and dexterity would be a better choice for cloth gear. But if that's not you, then just go with medium armor with a little bit of dex, maybe 14 dexterity. The tiger cleave, by the way, just as a reminder, the weapon range doesn't matter. This cleave is always going to be the same. This is a normal cleave, but it's the same. Well, actually, hold on. Let me start some combat. Let me show you real quick. Yep, I'll get into combat. We'll enrage, and I'll show you. So this cleave right here, the Tiger's Bloodlust, this is always the same range, and it is kind of tricky because it doesn't look like a 180, but it is a 180 from this white line to this white line from what I've encountered. So just keep that in mind. It's a 3 target maximum. It always does the base damage. So this damage you see in your normal attack does base. This damage is halved. However, that's a little bit of a lie, or a little tricky, because the plus 10 Great Weapon Master is not halved, and you would get the full 10 on all 3 targets. So just keep that in mind. Bonuses are actually not mitigated like elemental damage or Great Weapon Master. So that cleave can really hit hard to 3 targets, and it always bleeds if the target can bleed, but it always bleeds if you hit. And so bleed, remember, is very important for things like poison, moonbeam, dragon breath from the dragon racial class, or racial. And then it's a condition that triggers other conditions like the arcane synergy helmet or the reverb boots, which is why I'm using it. Now, something really interesting about some of these aspects, the bear aspect can enrage with heavy armor, and it would cancel out the impediment of rage where you lose your resistances. So bear rage with heavy armor is a unique, cool thing about the subclass I wanted to point out. The eagle aspect does have the dash as a bonus, which is something you would normally have to get with other subclasses or maybe a rogue multi-class. I really like this. I think it's low-key amazing. And you do get a really cool jumping attack. The elk aspect does give increased movement, which is always good. And you do get a charger attack, something you would normally get as a feat. This is actually a really cool attack that can knock people prone. And then there's the wolf aspect that actually gives allies advantage on their attacks when they gang up in melee range. So that could be really important to take, including the giving allies additional movement with a special attack or a special howl when you go in rage. But that's going to do it for the subclass. How do you actually play this? Well, I have older videos I'll link in the comment section, but go check out these 2 playlists. The War Master, I did a really cool Tiger Cleric multi-class, and the Punching Monk we just finished up, I did a Tiger Hexblade, which is amazing, especially for the same thing I was using here with the Skin Burster. I love that build. It was awesome. So come join the live stream. I try to show what's possible. I want you to play honor mode. I want to show you what you can play in honor mode. You can beat the game with you can beat it cheesy, but you can also beat it with any crazy build you can come up with, and I encourage you. That's what I want to see. So ask away in the comments or chat if you don't understand something, because you guys are my sponsors. I really appreciate you guys watching, and thank you so much for all those who subscribe to the membership. It's only $1 a month on YouTube. You guys make the channel even better, so I appreciate you, and I'll check you out in the next one.